have inspired or challenged you. But this week has been hard. I'm not exactly sure why, but it began with a gray cloud. I learned that another friend died of the illness on Monday, and I couldn't shake the anxiety and fear that comes with my vulnerability to this illness. I opened up the text on Tuesday morning, and it brought me nothing but irritation. All this talk of suffering, pain, and abuse was like a pebble in my shoe that I couldn't get rid of no matter how I tried. By Wednesday afternoon, I closed my Bible up, shut the light off, walked out of my office to my home, and went to bed. I was done. I'm guessing I'm not alone. I bet each of us has had these kinds of moments of frustration, irritation, pain, or anger. I don't think we should beat ourselves up for these feelings. They're normal. It's what we do with these feelings that can make the difference for our life. When I got back into my office on Thursday afternoon, I opened the Bible back up, and the verb endure caught my attention. I started thinking about what that might mean. Webster's dictionary says it's to hold up under pain, distress, or fatigue. Those descriptors sound a whole lot like our current situation. What does it mean to endure? And maybe more importantly, how do we do it in a healthy way? When I brought those questions to the text and began to turn it like a gem just a little bit, 3 verses jumped out at me. We'll look at them one at a time and see what we might wrestle with the scriptures. Peter starts with a basic fact, troubling maybe, but basic. If you know God, you're going to suffer. There's a whole other sermon there, but we don't have time for that one, so we'll keep going. Peter then tells us, if you suffer for doing the wrong thing, that ain't a God thing. Okay, sometimes that makes sense. So then he concludes his teaching with verse 20b, and this is the verse that really caught my attention. If you endure when you do right and suffer for it, you have God's approval. Now here, endurance means that you keep going down the path of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. I might say, we are currently enduring quarantine for a while because we believe it's the right thing for now. It's not easy, and we want to get back to a normal or something that looks like a normal life. But we'll hold on a little bit longer until things are set up to make us safe, or as close to safe as we can get them. We don't end this stay at home until it's right or just to do so. This is what I like to call equity. And equity depends on our context. So let me offer you a picture this morning so that you can see what equity might look like. You should focus on the equity side on the right hand. Now, we could say that the tall man is not suffering. He can see over the fence. Maybe he hasn't lost his job, or he has $1 billion. He needs no help. The man of average height is working an essential job, maybe in the grocery store, at the post office, or working for UPS. He needs a little help. Maybe protective equipment, safer work conditions, or bonus pay. The short man has lost his job, has little savings, and the rent is due. He needs a lot of help. And all of us together endure through this time to make sure everyone can get over the fence. This is justice. It's what's right or equitable. it receives God's approval. It's also the middle path between two extremes. And I want to talk a little bit about those extremes so we get a clearer sense of what the middle looks like. The first extreme is to grin and bear it. To grin and bear it through suffering with words like, I deserve this, or refusing to care for ourselves. We might call this being a martyr. I always have to be last, we tell ourselves. I always need to suffer so that others can get what they want. But this isn't healthy. It's an extreme that refuses to look at what's equitable or just. What do you need in your context? This is what equity would ask of us. And avoiding that question leads to unhealthy or wrong suffering. You can't love God or take care of your neighbor if you don't love yourself. If you don't care for yourself, self-care is essential for a full human life, a healthy human life. Enduring when you do right may mean caring for yourself when the context calls for it. And refusing to do so is not met with God's approval. The other extreme on the other side is playing the blame game for your suffering. Now, this morning I have a movie clip for you as a perfect example. It's going to take some setting up, but I know you'll be patient as we do that. Well, Lisa's going to do it for us right now. And it gives us a picture of what blaming others can look like. It comes from the movie Bruce Almighty. Now, Bruce is a TV guy. He's had the worst day of his life. And here's his response to that bad day when he gets home.
Well, thank God you're all right.
God, yeah, let's thank God, shall we? For his blessings are raining down upon me. Wait, that's not rain!
Bruce, please don't do that, honey. You know that everything happens for a reason.
That I don't need. That is a cliche. That is not helpful to me. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I have no bird. I have no bush. God has taken my bird and my bush.
Oh, I see. So God is picking on you? Is that what you're saying?
No, he's ignoring me completely. He's far too busy giving Evan everything he wants. Oh, that's great, Sam. But you missed your target. I'm over here.
Don't get mad at the dog. It's not the dog's fault.
No, it's God's fault. I gave him the wrong coordinates.
All right, you know what? Enough. All right, will you just stop being such a martyr?
I am not being a martyr. I'm a victim. God is a mean kid sitting on an anthill with a magnifying glass, and I'm the ant. He could fix my life in 5 minutes if he wanted to, but he'd rather burn off my feelers and watch me squirm.
All right, sweetheart, I know that you're mad. It's completely understandable. What Evan did is slimy and wrong. But this day could have been so much worse. I'm just glad you're okay.
Okay? Newsflash. I'm not okay. I'm not okay with a mediocre job. I'm not okay with a mediocre apartment. I'm not okay with a mediocre life.
We can see where the blame game can get us. We can see that there's no endurance for what is right here and no real self-care, just blame. We can blame God, we can blame others, we can blame ourselves, but none of it's helpful. It doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't lead to self-care. It doesn't lead to careful consideration of what is right or good. It just makes the suffering meaningless. And it sure doesn't meet with God's approval. Instead, we seek the middle path between these two. Between being a martyr and blaming others. We seek that path of justice for our neighbor and for ourselves. Now, the next two verses, in some way, give us this middle path as we look at the two extremes. So the second verse that grabbed my attention dives a bit deeper into what enduring for what is right might look like. Peter says, "For to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example so that you should follow in his steps." Now, the example Christ offers is a middle path that we just discussed. Right? Well, let's look at the first part of that, where he goes to offer self-care in the midst of this. Because he does die to show us the profound love of God and what it looks like. But the night before, he spends a considerable amount of time in self-care. And that self-care makes it possible for him to endure the cross. You'll remember in that night before, he shares a meal with his disciples, nurturing relationships, drawing close to those he loves. This is self-care. He spends significant time in reflective prayer and meditation, also self-care, all of it seeking what is right for him and what he needs to do to bring about justice and equity for the world. He says in this prayer, "Take this cup from me." Those words are a meditation of a form of considering walking away. Is that the right path that Jesus needs to take? Is that the path of self-care for him? Those words, I think, are him engaging with whether that path is the right one. But then, of course, he moves to another path, engaging that one. He says, "I will do your will." Again, he's considering another path. Which is right for him? Which one will provide the path of justice going forward? All of this, a shared meal, time with friends, meditative prayer, all of this is self-care. A form of seeking the way of God is not an "I deserve this" attitude. Peter says as much when he calls Christ blameless. Christ doesn't deserve this. Christ then reveals what endurance looks like and what it takes. It takes self-care. So let us not forego the self-care of the night before the cross if we are to endure living the life of the cross to see that justice is done. So Christ shows us the first part of the middle path in rejecting the sense of "I deserve this." He shows us self-care to endure the cross. Now the second verse, or the last one, grabbed my attention because it shows Christ rejecting the other extreme, which is the blame game. Peter says, when he was abused, he did not return abuse. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but he entrusted himself to the one who judges justly. Abusing others, threatening them, is a form of blame. It's his fault, so I'll hurt him. She did it, so I'll scream at her, "You will pay for this." This is not the way of Christ. The one who endures in a healthy way seeks understanding and meaning, seeks justice, and entrusts herself to the one who judges justly. This is the hope of resurrection. It's how we endure through our suffering, in the hope of resurrection. This hope is the promise that offers a reservoir for endurance. It's what makes the middle path possible. Hope for what is right empowers us to self-care. Hope for what is right empowers us to avoid blame and seek understanding or meaning. Hope empowers us to justice and equity, even when it means holding on through pain, distress, or fatigue. Hope, the hope of resurrection and God's justice, is the driving action that makes the work of justice possible. Now we're going to end with a second clip from the movie Bruce Almighty. And what we showed you in the first clip, Lisa's going to get it ready in just a minute, but what we showed you in the first clip is what it looks like to take one of the extremes, Right? But by the end of the movie, everything has gone wrong. Bruce's town of Buffalo is in flames and destruction. You're going to see that in just a minute. And then God helps Bruce find the power of hope that helps him endure through the suffering for what is right. Now, I want you to take a look at this clip.
God? Are you here? Hello? I need your help! Clap on! Clap on! Clap on! Clap on! Clap on! Figures!
Well, hello there, Bruce Almighty. Not as easy as it looks, is it, son? This God business.
They're all out of control. It's mayhem. I don't know what to do.
Well, you're right on time. 7 o'clock.
7th at 7.
All righty then. There we are.
It's good.
Good. It's a wonderful thing. No matter how filthy something gets, you can always clean it right up.
There were so many. I just gave them all what they wanted.
Yeah. But since when does anyone have a clue about what they want?
So do I do.
Parting your soup is not a miracle, Bruce. It's a magic trick. A single mom who's working 2 jobs and still finds time to take her kid to soccer practice, that's a miracle. A teenager who says no to drugs and yes to an education, that's a miracle. People want me to do everything for them when what they don't realize is they have the power. You want to see a miracle, son? Be the miracle.
Wait, are you leaving?
Yeah, I figure you can handle things now.
But what if I need you? What if I have questions?
That's your problem, Bruce. That's everybody's problem. You keep looking up.
I love this clip in so many ways because there's this huge mess, not unlike the mess that we have in life often, but we can clean it up. We can do what's just. We can seek equity. We can help others. We can do that in a way of being the miracle. God has empowered us through the hope of resurrection to do just that, to endure through the mess and the suffering, the distress and fatigue, to do the little things, to seek justice and equity for our children, for the teenagers, for the world, for our community. Be the miracle. It's sort of a cliche, but what if hope and trust in the one who resurrects is the miracle of self-care, and that's just? What if it's the miracle of seeking justice for the other, for our neighbor, for the one who's hurting the most? Follow in his steps, says Peter. These are the steps of Christ's healthy endurance in the face of suffering. May you, in the midst of this season of endurance, take care of yourself. May you set aside blame and let hope empower your understanding, and may you seek justice, equity, the miracle of resurrection that brings new life which didn't exist beforehand. Be the miracle. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.